Are we gonna die?
It's my job to protect you.
This is a very unique and ambitious take on the Wolfman that does put a lot on your shoulders. So I'm curious, when you first signed on, what were some of your biggest burning questions for Leigh in terms of how you'd go about pulling this off?
Well, it's in the script already. So the first thing, obviously, you start talking about is the transformation and how that's going to work, and a movie that he referenced and I referenced a lot was The Fly, which I'm sure he talked about. And just because of the pace of the progression in The Fly is sort of similar to ours in this, it's slow. It's there's a lot of attention to small details, and I think it's fun to act, but I think it's also fun to watch those little things, how much of the human is leaving, how much of the animal is coming in, and especially the levels in the middle when you can't quite tell which is which. Those are fun to play, but it's complicated, and you really have to play with those levels and see what works and what doesn't. So I think that was sort of the biggest challenge there.
And then there's a lot of components that go into making that happen. That's start
right.
with the physicality. What kind of conversations did you have with Leigh? And I guess probably also a movement coach in terms of figuring, I guess, like the rules and techniques you would lean on to make sure that the progression all the way throughout the movie had like the necessary linear trajectory.
Right. Well, it wasn't, I didn't worry so much about rules, right? So the thing is, because it's a wolf, right? So of course you were like, okay, well, how can I play a wolf physically? Now, I mean, we're not built like them, right? So you can't unless, So what do you take a little bit from a wolf, you take stuff from other animals. I brought in a friend, Orr Schreiber, who's a dancer, movement, whatever, and he's fantastic. And we worked together before shooting on just working on ideas, so I can just come to set with as many ideas as I could, and just have options. And so taking stuff from actual dance, whether it's just a move or just one little thing, and just sort of creating an amalgamation of anything from animal videos to that. And just creating something unique and whatever works for the scene on the day.
I've recently become obsessed with movement coaches and their work. I just find it so fascinating, and it's so instrumental to like delivering a transformative
I love it,
performance.
and I love dance anyway too, and I love and I love his work, so I loved using that.
Kind of leaning into that a little bit, if you had the opportunity to play another creature character in the future, is there any type of creature that comes to mind that might appeal to you, whether it's leaning on these movement techniques and makeup and prosthetics, or perhaps a performance capture opportunity?
Do you mean like a universal monster one, or do you mean like
the range is endless.
The range is endless. I mean, animal wise, I don't know if I'm going to get asked to play any more animals, but
you never know nowadays.
It's a good question. I don't know. What do I want to work on physically?
Or even if it's like a technique you learned doing this performance that you would like to do more of because it would suit whatever role.
Honestly, I would. I don't know. I truly do love dance, and I would actually just say I like to do something with some dance in it.
Okay.
I don't mean like a musical necessarily, but something where, I don't know. There's movies that have done it. Holy Motors has some of that kind of, that movie, something like that.
I'll sit and impatiently wait for that day. I hope it comes soon.
I'm going to impatiently wait for it too.
So leaning into the makeup and prosthetics here, I was reading a little bit about the process you went through, and I know you sat for many, many hours in the chair. Having done it now, what maybe tip or trick would you give to another actor about to do their first makeup and prosthetic heavy performance?
Just make sure you like the people that are doing, you're doing it with. It's just a lot of time spent together. And Arian and Pam, who did the prosthetics, I love them. And it was such a, thank God, because spending 7 hours in this little trailer with people, it's, you're intimate, and and you better get along.
How do you pass the time?
Honestly, we just hang out and talk and play music and take breaks, and, and Pam would sage it, and I didn't do podcasts or anything, it was just talk, and it was great.
And you're playing a werewolf. What is on the playlist? to get you into that zone?
It's not what you would think.
Okay.
You know what I mean? There's a lot of like Paul Simon, and it's more the opposite of, yeah.
Makes sense. So another layer of this transformation here that I was very curious about is figuring out how much of Blake is left every single step of the way. What was it like mapping that out and figuring the right balance during each stage?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, again, without having rules, right? So I think you can set something, right? And you'd be like, okay, now this is the part where it has to be, whether you're playing with percentages, whether it's 80% Blake and 20% animal or vice versa, whatever. You can sort of have these things, but also the fun part is take to take, we would change the dials, you know what I mean? And then you have the edit to sort of figure that out. So we would do a little bit of that as well, just for options and just to have fun. Yeah.
To give maybe a non-spoiler example or a spoiler example if you prefer, and we will brand it appropriately.
Sure.
Can you recall a time on set when you gave like the most extreme range and kind of tell us what the endpoints were there?
I'm trying to think of anything that was in the middle, because anything in the middle was probably, I mean, there's a scene I think where I'm trying to sort of, you can't tell if he's trying to attack the daughter or protect her. You know what I mean? So I think it's playing with that. And then it gets, the details in that usually come down to the eyes, I think, of like, because it's the eyes that are human or animal, that's really, so I think it's probably that.
Kept me on my toes. I appreciated that part of the performance.
Yeah.
I have to ask you about working with Julia, because one of the things that I was reading in my press notes that Leigh said is I think he referred to her as an ideal scene partner for you. I'm sure she's a great scene partner for everybody, but what is something specific about the way she likes to work that really suits how you like to work too?
Yeah, I mean, I think she's into detail, and like, even though we're doing a, let's say, genre film, horror film, whatever, where it's a lot about the visuals and the scares and all this kind of stuff. There's still attention to detail and character and like making sure you're telling the truth in this. And, she's so good at sort of being specific about those things and telling the truth, And so I think we were both similar in that way and came together.
See that quality in all her work. That's what keeps me coming back for more. I love it.
That's right. Yeah.
I wanted to make sure to end on a question about Ann Lee, because obviously The Brutalist is very high on my mind right now. I loved your last film with Mona. And with The Brutalist, one thing I keep hearing about is just like how personal it was to them. And even as a viewer, I feel like I could feel that in the finished film.
Totally.
And in the case of Ann Lee, I know she wrote that script. So coming back together with her, can you kind of feel the difference in her work when it's her material?
Yeah, I mean, like I've, Brady and Mona have been close, dear friends of mine for a very, very long time. And I've watched them, work on all, pushing often with these kinds of films, really pushing a boulder up a mountain, you know what I mean, of trying to get them made. And the same goes for Ann Lee. It's a very, on paper, is it a movie that's going to make a lot of money? Who knows? It's a strange, weird thing, but the important thing here is to get it made. And I think I haven't seen anything of that movie yet, but I'm really excited about it because it's such a strange, again, on paper, it's what a weird, almost like a musical history thing about Ann Lee. You're like, what is this? But from what I've seen, from what we shot and everything, I think it's going to be a very unique, special experience.
Those are all the right keywords. Bring it on. I'll end with one more question about that one. Given the fact that you have worked with her before, is there anything you saw her do on that set that made even you go like, my God, I knew you were good, but I never realized you'd be capable of that?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I've done something in all of Mona's movies, in all three of her movies by now, and we met. She was my first friend when I moved to New York a very, very long time ago. And that was back when she was even acting, you know what I mean, trying to do that. And then just seeing her sort of grow and, I've been witness to all of it. And, even hanging out at the house when they're complaining about, not being able to get money for the film. And, so just it's I've seen it all in real time in the progression, but like when I step back, I can't help but just be in awe and I don't know if pride or being proud is the right word because I don't whatever, but like I do, I feel proud of her and them.
Beautiful answer. I'm a big fan of filmmaking families and people who find longtime collaborators and stick with them, so I'm happy to hear that.
Oh, good. Thanks.
And I will also say huge congratulations on Wolfman.
Thank you so much.